Well, hello, hello.
Hello.
Al, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks.
So as our kind MC just briefly alluded to, Al is Vice President of Alexa. You were also the third employee to work on the Alexa team, is that correct?
That's right. I joined over 5 years ago at the very beginning of this initiative. Yep.
Got it. And so, you know, as many of us know or probably know, the Echo, the first Echo speaker came out in 2014. It's been roughly 3 years since then. I'm curious to hear from your perspective, Al. How has user engagement, what does it look like, and how has it surprised you?
Yeah. I think we learned, things have changed a lot in 3 years. Alexa just had her birthday a few days ago. On November 6th was the official third year anniversary of our launch. We've seen so much change in those 3 years and learned so much from our users, not just in how they use the device, but the feedback that they've provided us in using it. And so when I look at the capabilities of the first Echo, I think the hallmark capabilities that are brought to market that people hadn't seen before, working at a level of accuracy that Echo brought, were far-field speech, the ability to speak to a device from 8, 10, 12 feet across the room, or in some cases around the corner and down the hall, and with that highly accurate wake word technology, so that Alexa only woke when spoken to and didn't wake when you didn't speak to her. And so putting those two technologies together, the wake word and the far-field speech recognition capability, I think brought this magical experience to bear that none of us had experienced before. So that was the new thing at the time. But if you look at the capabilities we came to market with, we had music, there was some minimal smart home capabilities, information, but there was a lot of room for improvement for the things that Alexa could do. If I fast forward to where we are today, there's a lot more that she knows, that she can do, that she can control in the smart home, in the communication space, messaging, phone calls. It's just been a long road of discovery, and a lot of the features that you see coming to market now are a direct result of feedback from our customers, listening to what people want, and figuring out what are the experiences that are best going to be enabled by a hands-free, natural interaction of voice.
Are there any surprise use cases? I mean that in the sense of, are people using it in ways that you just simply did not fathom, even just 3 years ago?
Going back 3 years, it was kind of fun to watch how people were using it when we first launched, because we introduced the product under a limited invitation only. So it was hard to get your hands on one, and it was impossible to get your hands on two. And we had people that loved them so much. One person sent us a picture where they'd cut a hole in the wall between their living room and their kitchen, and they'd place the Echo right in that rectangular hole.
They cut a hole in the wall?
They cut a hole in the wall so they could use the product from both rooms, because they couldn't get a second one, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
This is the first I'm hearing of this. Is there a name for this phenomenon?
No, I haven't named it, but I'm sure if you look, you'll find it somewhere out there on Twitter. They posted pictures of it, but to me, it demonstrated like the product. This person was loving the capabilities and what it could do for them, and they just wanted to have more of it, and have it in more places. So they weren't happy with it being constrained to a single room in their home.
Got it. Now, I just want to clarify, because I think it was just like 2 or 3 months ago that Amazon announced another slew of Echo products to bring into the home. And at that event, they announced that I think it was 5,000 employees are now working on Alexa in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, the team has grown a lot since I started. We have 5,000 people dedicated to Alexa now across all of the functions, from building the hardware, building the embedded software, doing the research and the science on speech recognition, natural language understanding, text-to-speech, and of course the business team that takes it to our partners who develop skills for Alexa or are integrating Alexa via the Alexa voice service into their devices.
Are they concentrated in Seattle, or where are they?
It's a global team, and actually it has been from the very beginning. We have teams all over Europe. We're in Cambridge, UK, Aachen, Germany, Gdansk, Poland is where we actually do the text-to-speech voice. It's all built in Poland. And then, internationally all over Canada, the United States, and India.
Got it. Now, I know a big part of the growing, massive sort of Alexa Echo ecosystem is third parties, right? Can you talk more about that third party part of the ecosystem? What's that looking like? And for instance, I was at CES earlier this year, and I was being sold on fridges with Alexa compatibility.
Yeah.
Talk more about that.
Yeah, I'm happy to actually. I think the headlines at CES where Alexa steals the show and they don't even have a booth. It's because we were showing up in so many of our partners' devices or skills being built by partners like BMW or Ford to enable you to control your car, start your car remotely. So there's a lot going on in that space. We now have the Alexa Skills Kit, which allows third-party developers to write new capabilities for Alexa. Launched a little over 2 years ago. So we had 0 skills a little over 2 years ago. We've now crossed 25,000 skills. So wow. Lots of capabilities that never would have come to bear if you were waiting for us to build them at Amazon. I think that's a testament to the power of releasing public APIs. And then on the AVS side, we have tens of thousands of developers who are building devices that are going to integrate Alexa into them. The idea being that Alexa can be anywhere and everywhere that you're going to be. So whether it's appliances or smart connected speakers, thermostats like the Ecobee, or automobiles. AVS developers are building for tons of different hardware scenarios that we never would have imagined.
Got it. So it's my understanding that machine learning is part and parcel, or very much core to Alexa. How is machine learning deployed, and how does Alexa get smarter?
So we use machine learning in probably a dozen different places in the product. Obviously, speech recognition, the use of deep neural networks, a natural place where we do a lot of machine learning and use a lot of big data. On the natural language understanding side as well, and understanding the intent of a particular request or the various slots or information that appear in a request, like maybe an artist name. These are all machine learned models. On the text-to-speech side, we're also using machine learning. And then, of course, as Amazon has been doing for many, many years, long before Alexa, personalizing the experience through machine learning as well, learning from our users' behavior and personalizing it over time.
Got it. So I want to look into the future. Right. I want to talk about what is the sort of longer-term vision for Alexa. What does that look like to you, Al?
Yeah, I think voice. What we're seeing is it's a much more natural user interface, and it has its place in technology as we're learning. We think of ourselves as a voice-forward product, so lead with voice. You may have GUIs and screens and things that support what you're doing in an interactive way, as we've shown with the recent launch of the Spot, which has a small screen on it, or the Echo Show, which has the larger screen. But the idea is they're still voice-forward. You might be asking what the weather is, and then you might see that Alexa can tell you today's forecast or the weather outside, but that 7-day forecast is probably better viewed visually on a screen in a glanceable format. So I think our vision is voice as a natural interface is going to be in everything that we do in the future. It's going to appear in all of the devices and throughout your home and your car and your place of work. And when you go to a hotel room, you'll use your voice to control your environment and the world around you. And so it's just a natural interface for doing that. You don't have to learn how to use your voice to speak to technology if you can speak to it in a conversational way like you would speak to another human. So you don't have to retrain on how to use your voice when you walk into a hotel room to open the blinds or set your alarm. You would just ask the way you would another human. And I think we're seeing a whole ecosystem of development happening, not just at Amazon, but around voice in general, and that future is getting closer. I'd say it's only a few years away where it's common. And I'm actually already getting anecdotes from coworkers whose children have grown up with Echo in their home from birth, and to them it's normal to talk to devices. And I hear these anecdotes of their kids walking up to the fridge and speaking to it and being confused that the fridge isn't speaking back or able to respond to their request because they expect it. It's just a normal part of the environment that's been with them since they were born. It's interesting to see the change.
I find that fascinating in a sense of, when we back up a little bit to 2007, the first iPhone comes out, right? And I think a lot of children, a lot of people became very quickly accustomed to visually interacting, tapping and swiping to navigate around a lot of interfaces. Obviously, what we're talking about is voice and voice navigation. Is voice, do you think, more intuitive than tapping and swiping on the phone?
I think it is, and I think we see evidence of that in just sort of the demographic of people who are using technology. So I don't have data to back this up, but from my own anecdotal experience, it's a lot easier to teach a senior citizen to speak to a device if they can just speak to it like a human and say, call my son or remind me or set an alarm in the same way they would speak to a human. Whereas I think adopting new technologies that require you to learn interface paradigms and GUI paradigms, even if it does involve touch, which does cut down the friction, is harder. There's a learning curve. I don't think there's a learning curve with speech. We go through that very early in life, and we've all become adept at it.
Got it. You mentioned the Echo Show and the Spot, which I'm eager to try eventually. Both of those have graphic interfaces. That being said, you mentioned that Echo is voice first, but how does that paradigm of interaction change when there is a graphic interface placed? You mentioned the weather, but beyond that, how is user engagement potentially altering around that?
I think of it as supporting information. I want to use my voice to search for something, but then I don't want to listen to someone reading back tens or hundreds of results. I'd rather be able to visualize them. Another example would be maybe if you're in the kitchen and you're cooking and you have a show on your counter and you want to see a recipe and then advance through the recipe step by step, using your voice to control it because maybe your hands are occupied, covered in chicken, mixing something in a bowl, but to be able to use your voice to control that visual, to be able to see what's happening next and visualize what you need to do. I think it's an accompaniment. So I don't think voice necessarily is a complete replacement for a GUI. I believe there's a complement there. Voice as a natural interface is great for a lot of things that you want to do. There are still some things where a visual interface is going to be the way you want to consume your information. So I think with the Echo Show and now with the Spot, we're trying to find that complementary of a voice-forward experience supported with a GUI. Show me my shopping list. Oh, mark off the third item. Scroll down. Show me the next one. I don't have to walk across the room to touch it.
Got it. How else, Al, do you foresee Alexa sort of evolving? For instance, you mentioned Alexa is in many rooms now, right? She's going to enter the bedroom basically with the Spot. So where else do you see Alexa sort of going and evolving?
Well, I think because of the Alexa voice service and the fact that we've opened it up via public APIs, the places it can go are limitless and ultimately only constrained to the imaginations of developers who want to build for Alexa. So we're already seeing Alexa showing up in thermostats and appliances and automobiles, and who knows what's next. Maybe manufacturers will decide to put them into your other household appliances or places. I also think there's a place for this technology both in the workplace and in the hospitality industry. Yeah. So I mentioned hotels already. We do have a partner in Las Vegas, the Wynn Casino, that has put Echoes in every hotel room and are figuring out how to use that for automation for guests in the rooms. I think there's a lot of room for Alexa to do more in the hotel business and then ultimately in the enterprise.
God. Do you foresee, this is an entirely different product, but I think of something like Google Glass, for instance. I felt like, to me, what was most exciting with Google Glass was the potential enterprise industrial applications. Right. Construction, medicine, healthcare, for instance. Do you foresee Alexa becoming, not necessarily the majority, but a significant chunk of Alexa use cases happening in the enterprise?
Well, I think there will be a lot of enterprise, and today it's already happening. We're seeing enterprises building skills and then using them within their own office environment and putting Echoes around their offices. But I do think there's a place for all kinds of use cases, whether it's controlling meetings and audio video, setting up a meeting with a video. You walk into a meeting room and you say, "Start my meeting." And the video comes on and all the participants are connected. There's a lot of places where I think voice could remove friction from things in the workplace that are inefficient today.
Got it. I want to sort of briefly back up a little bit. Earlier you mentioned that you were surprised about Alexa's liftoff, or the way that it has really taken traction. When did you know that Alexa had reached a sort of mainstream threshold?
Have we?
There was a Saturday Night Live clip.
There was a Saturday Night Live skit done called the Echo Silver, which sort of touched on the notion of seniors using the Echo, which was actually quite hilarious. That was, it's exciting to see something like Saturday Night Live pick up on our product. It does make you kind of feel like you've entered into the mainstream. There's been a lot. I mean, like I said, it's been 3 years since we've launched, and when we launched, it was a limited invitation. I'd say even a year and a half ago, if you stopped an average person on the street and asked them about Alexa and Echo, most of them wouldn't know what it was, whereas today it seems that everybody knows what the technology is, or at least knows someone who has one. So it's really crossed the tipping point somewhere in the last year, it feels like.
Got it. So did you say 2,000 ways 2,000 instructions for Alexa, or 2,000 ways that Alexa can sort of act upon instructions?
I don't actually have a number for the number of things that she can do. There were 25,000 skills, third-party skills, capabilities others have built for Alexa, not Amazon, in addition to all the things that we've built.
And is there maybe, generally speaking, are there one or two things that maybe Alexa doesn't do right now that users would love for it to do? Any additional skills?
I don't have any roadmap comments to provide here, but like I said, I think bringing Alexa into the car is going to be the next huge step. We recently announced deals with BMW and Ford, and I think the ability to have Alexa with you wherever you go will make a lot of the capabilities that are there, around calendaring and home automation, communications, a lot more ubiquitous and a lot more powerful. So seeing all that come to different places where you are, whether you're on the go, in your car, at your place of work, or traveling, I think is going to be very powerful.
Great. Well, Al Lindsay, Vice President of Alexa, thank you so much for your time and your insight this afternoon. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you, JP. Thank you all.
Thanks.